Hello everyone, today we are going to walk barefoot across a land where the ground itself can betray you. Because beneath your feet lies something more dangerous than any gun or blade. Diamonds. Not the shining ornaments you see in glass cases, but the raw, sharp stones pulled from Congo's red earth cage, each one carrying a secret heavy enough to break kingdoms. You feel the jungle breathing around you, thick with vines and shadows, the river carrying whispers of stories that nobody dares to speak aloud. This is Asterisk, Decoding the Secret of Congo's Diamond Wars Asterisk. And you probably won't survive this journey without scars on your mind. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments, because I love knowing how far these secret history stories travel. Now, let's embark on today's secret history journey together. The night air hangs heavy as you crouch near a flickering fire, listening to the rhythmic beat of drums echoing across the valley. You imagine the sound bouncing off mountains of stone, hiding veins of diamonds that will soon draw outsiders with their maps, their rifles, and their endless hunger. The Congo's soil is alive, but it also hides curses. Local storytellers speak of spirits that guard the stones, spirits that punish anyone greedy enough to take more than their share. Historians still debate whether these tales were warnings born of tradition or clever ways to resist colonial greed. But the fact remains, diamonds never came without blood. You see a caravan approaching, men carrying sacks that clink like bones, eyes darting toward the trees as if the forest itself disapproves. You shuffle closer and hear their leader muttering in French, the language of conquerors, promising wealth to men who have never even held a coin of their own. One boy trips, spilling a handful of rough diamonds into the dust. For a moment, the firelight catches the stones, and they glow as if alive, too bright, too raw. Then someone kicks dirt over them, because here diamonds are not treasure, they are death sentences waiting to be claimed. You taste the iron in the air, as if the earth itself bleeds. The story begins with simple geology. Carbon compressed over millennia, stones born in darkness. Yet when they surface in Congo's soil, they no longer belong to the earth. They belong to kings, to colonizers, to corporations, to anyone powerful enough to twist them into weapons. You picture Belgian officials with polished boots stepping off steamships, measuring maps, deciding which lives were expendable. Their shadows stretch long, falling over villages where children chase fireflies, unaware that tomorrow their hands will dig instead. The diamonds glitter, but not for them. Odd details cling to memory. A missionary once wrote that some miners chewed on raw diamonds, believing swallowing them would make them invisible to enemies. Others tied the stones to their ankles, a desperate charm for survival in a land where survival was never guaranteed. Was it magic? Was it madness? Historians still debate whether these were acts of faith or simply stories written to soften unbearable truths. But when you close your eyes, you can almost feel the jagged edges cutting into skin. A reminder that beauty here is always sharpened to wound. And you realize that the Congo's diamond wars were never just about the stones. They were about control. Control of people, of borders, of the right to breathe freely in your own land. The diamonds became chains polished into temptation, chains strong enough to bind generations. You can hear the silence of villages emptied overnight, the ghostly echo of laughter replaced by the hollow ring of shovels striking rock. You imagine yourself there, your hands blistered, your lungs choked with dust, your heart weighed down by a stone that the world calls precious, but you know only as a curse. If you lean closer to the flames of this story, you will feel both its warmth and its danger. Because to decode the secret of Congo's diamond wars is to accept that history is not written in inkly. It is carved into the flesh of those who had no choice but to endure. And tonight, as the jungle hums and the river rolls on, you are no longer just a listener. You are inside the story, carrying the diamonds with you. Knowing that every glitter is a reminder of lives traded, promises broken, and empires fed by the earth's buried heart, you find yourself on a dirt path where the jungle parts just enough to reveal a procession. A ragtag line of men, women, and children moving in silence except for the creak of wooden carts and the soft clink of stones hidden in burlap sacks. The air is heavy with smoke from cooking fires left behind, and you realize you're walking alongside one of the countless caravans that carried the seeds of the Congo's diamond wars long before the phrase was ever written down. The stones have already begun their double life. In the village, they meant food, tools, and dowries. But once carried into the forest, they become currency for weapons, gold, and power. A king's emissary rides at the front, his robe patched from battles, but his chin held high, collecting taxes from each trader. Behind him, mercenaries with mismatched rifles march like shadows, their eyes too sharp, their fingers twitching at the promise of profit. You shuffle forward and catch scraps of whispered bargains. A trader promises 3 stones for safe passage. Another offers his cousin's labor. Another mutters about a secret route that avoids a rival chief's ambush. The jungle hums louder, insects screaming as if they too resent the intrusion. And you begin to understand that every diamond leaving this soil carries not only its sparkle, but also the weight of betrayal. Historians still debate whether these early trades were acts of free will or thinly veiled coercion. But one truth remains. The stones created a marketplace where survival itself had a price. Odd details reveal themselves like fireflies. One merchant swears he buries a diamond under every campfire so the spirits will protect him from raiders. Another sprinkles diamond dust into his palm wine, claiming it makes the drinker fearless. You watch a young boy stare at the cup, then push it away, his face pale in the torchlight. Was it superstition or strategy? No one knows. But the story lingers because you can see the fear carved into his hesitation. The king who taxes the caravans is not greedy for jewelry. He is desperate for leverage. His people are caught between rival tribes, European agents, and mercenaries who shift loyalties with every sunrise. You see him count the stones with trembling hands, knowing that each one buys not only food but also temporary peace. Yet peace is fragile. A shout erupts at the back of the caravan as 2 men wrestle over a sack. It splits open, scattering diamonds into the mud. Everyone freezes. For a long heartbeat, the jungle is silent. Then all at once, bodies dive forward, hands clawing at the earth. Each person convinced that whoever holds the most stones holds destiny itself. You crouch low, your fingers brushing the edge of a diamond. Cold and unyielding, and you feel its sharp edge like a blade pressing into your skin. The caravan eventually moves on. Quieter now, but you notice the mercenaries are heavier with new loot, and the traders lighter with fear. They march toward coastal towns, where Portuguese ships wait with open holds, ready to exchange beads, muskets, and rum, 4 sacks of stones that glimmer under lantern light. You'll realize that what began as local bargaining has already transformed into international intrigue. Diamonds once carried by bare feet through dense jungle will soon glitter in crowns and chalices across oceans. And you are left wondering whether the stones themselves are cursed, or whether it is people who cannot resist twisting them into chains. The path narrows as you leave the caravan behind. But the echoes of their deals and disputes cling to your ears like a warning. You know, you've only seen the beginning, a small glimpse of how diamonds became more than minerals. They became tickets to survival, instruments of betrayal, and sparks for war. And as the jungle closes in around you, you sense that this story will only grow darker. Because the Congo's diamond wars were never about beauty. They were about control. You are walking deeper into the heart of that truth with every step. You hear the sound before you see the men, the crack of a whip, the dull thud of boots on damp soil, the strained silence of people forced to obey. The Belgian shadow has arrived, and it falls across the Congo like a choking fog. You walk behind the officials of Leopold's private empire. Their uniforms pressed, their notebooks precise, their eyes scanning not the land but the people, calculating how many hands can dig, how many backs can bend, how many lives can be broken in the pursuit of diamonds. This is where the secret of Congo's diamond wars deepens. For the stones are no longer traded in whispers beneath jungle canopus. They are commanded under iron decrees, carved into quotas that villages must meet or perish. You shuffle past a clearing where men are bent double, prying stones from the riverbed with their bare hands. Their shoulders glisten with sweat, their ribs sharp under the midday sun. One child pauses to cough, the sound small but dangerous, because a guard's eyes snap toward him, and you sense the boy knows he cannot stop. The diamonds gleam faintly in their pans, each flake of light reflecting the face of someone who will never own it. Historians still debate whether Leopold himself understood the scale of cruelty that unfolded in his name, or whether he simply chose not to look. But you feel in your bones that silence was complicity. An odd detail catches your attention. Some villagers hide stones in the thatched roofs of their huts, not to sell, but to keep away from the collectors, believing that if the diamonds remain unseen, the violence might lessen. Others crush small fragments into powder and scatter them on burial mounds, hoping ancestors will guard the souls of the dead from the greed of the living. Whether these rituals offered real protection or not is uncertain, yet they reveal a truth diamonds inspired not awe, but dread. You walk deeper into a compound where Belgian agents record numbers on long sheets, tallying sacks of stones as if they were sacks of grain. A missionary stands nearby, his expression torn between pity and fear, scribbling in his journal words that will later horrify readers in Europe. But you notice his voice is low, almost apologetic, because even he knows that speaking too loudly could bring punishment. You wonder how many such witnesses stayed silent, how many diaries burned, how many truths were buried alongside the people who could have told them. At night, you slip into the village and find the silence unbearable. No laughter, no songs, no children chasing fireflies. Only the heavy breath of exhaustion and the faint glimmer of eyes staring out into the dark, waiting for dawn to demand more labor. You imagine yourself lying there, your body sore, your spirit drained, clutching a secret hope that the next day you might escape into the jungle, even if escape means death. The stones have become chains that glimmer, cruel shackles that sparkle too brightly to ignore. Rumors swirl that some local chiefs cut secret deals, trading compliance for rifles or coin while others resisted, vanishing into forests and striking back at outposts. Historians still debate whether these acts of resistance slowed the bleeding of the land or only fueled harsher reprisals. But you see courage in the shadows. You see people who refuse to let diamonds define their destiny as the night deepens. You realize that the Belgian shadow is not only a period of history, it is a reminder of how greed can cloak itself in authority, how a sparkling stone can justify unspeakable cruelty, and how silence allows violence to grow roots. You feel the cold glint of a diamond in your palm, sharp and heavy, and you know it carries both the memory of suffering and the question of who truly profits from its shine. The Congo's diamond wars are no longer whispers among caravans. They are an empire's decree, and as you follow the faint trail of lantern light through the compound, you sense the story is only tightening its grip, leading you toward even darker corridors where stones will decide not just wealth, but the fate of nations. Gunfire cracks in the distance, and you realize the jungle is no longer the loudest voice here. The Cold War has crept into the Congo, turning its soil into a chessboard where diamonds are pawns and survival is the only rule. You crouch low as a convoy rattles past, trucks piled with men in mismatched uniforms, their rifles pointed outward, their eyes darting like cornered animals. You know at once that this is not simply a local skirmish. This is the world's superpowers fighting over buried treasure. And the diamonds are the prize that keeps the bullets flying. This is the secret of Congo's diamond wars. Sharpened by foreign hands and fueled by greed that stretches far beyond the jungle, you move with the rebels, their boots caked in mud, their pockets filled not with money but with rough stones wrapped in cloth. Each gem is a ticket to buy more ammunition, more loyalty, more time. A commander squats by the fire, trading 3 diamonds for a box of bullets, his face unreadable in the glow. He knows that tomorrow's battle could erase his entire army, but tonight, the stones buy him another sunrise. Odd details cling to the scene. A young fighter ties a diamond to a piece of string and wears it like a pendant, convinced it will make him bulletproof. Another scratches the surface of his stone with a knife, whispering that if it bleeds red, victory is assured. Historians still debate whether these were desperate superstitions or clever psychological tricks. But either way, you can feel the fear hiding beneath their bravado at the same time. Men in suits thousands of miles away sit in air-conditioned offices. Flipping through reports marked confidential, they read about the Congo as if it were a line item on a balance sheet, debating which faction to fund, which leader to prop up, and which shipment of diamonds to intercept. You picture them sipping coffee while deciding who will live and who will starve. The weight of entire villages reduced to numbers scrawled on yellow paper. The Cold War has turned Congo's earth into hot soil, and you are standing in the heat, knowing that every decision made in those distant offices sends ripples that crush lives here. You pass through a mining pit carved like an open wound into the ground, where floodlights hum and generators roar. Men dig under watchtowers, their shadows stretching long across the dirt. A boy no older than 12 coughs into his sleeve, his hands blistered raw from hauling sacks. When he stumbles, a soldier kicks dust over him, barking at him to keep moving. You realize that the Cold War isn't just fought with spies and soldiers, it's fought with these children's backs, bent beneath the weight of stones that will never bring them comfort. In the marketplace of a dusty border town, you hear traders haggling over diamonds as casually as if they were sacks of flour. A woman offers a handful of rice for a sliver of a stone, desperate to feed her children. A smuggler pockets a glittering gem, knowing it will fetch 10 times its value once it crosses the border into another country. Whispers float about cursed diamonds, ones that bring death to every hand that touches them. You pause, wondering whether the curse is the stone itself or the greed it inspires. Rebel radios crackle with coded messages, and you catch fragments about secret arms drops, planes landing at night, foreign agents walking in shadows. Historians still debate whether the CIA or KGB had the heavier hand in shaping Congo's conflicts, but on the ground it hardly matters. What you see is chaos fueled by outsiders. Furnace kept burning by diamonds that glint cruelly under lantern light. The night deepens, and as you sit beneath a baobab tree, you feel the unease settle into your chest. The Congo's diamond wars are no longer just a local tragedy, they are an international obsession. A stage where global powers rehearse their rivalries, while ordinary people pay in blood, sweat, and silence. The secret lies not in the stones themselves, but in the way they are used, twisted into weapons by hands that may never touch Congo's soil. And as you close your eyes, you realize the story is still only tightening, pulling you toward darker truths that wait in the shadows of the coming dawn. You wake to the clang of metal against stone, the rhythm of hammers echoing through the valley like a cruel drumbeat. As you look around, you see pits carved deep into the ground. Men and boys crawling through narrow tunnels, where the air is heavy with dust and despair. This is where the phrase "blood diamonds" becomes more than a slogan. It is the daily truth of the Congo's diamond wars, etched into blistered palms and fractured families. You step closer, and the sight sears itself into your mind. Children dragging sacks larger than their bodies. Mothers carrying baskets of stones on their heads. Fathers bribing guards with a single gem just to keep their sons from being taken away. A soldier leans lazily against a tree, his rifle slung across his chest, while a smuggler counts diamonds in the shade. His fingers quick, his grin sharp. You realize in this moment that the stones are not just symbols of wealth, they are tickets to power, traded for food, traded for guns, traded for survival. Historians still debate whether international sanctions ever slowed this bloody marketplace or merely drove it further. Underground, but the truth you witness is undeniable. Diamonds are not neutral. They are fuel for war. Odd fragments of life cling to this place. One boy ties a diamond inside a rag doll, hoping that hiding it within something innocent will protect his sister. Another miner carves a tiny cross into a stone, swearing it now carries a blessing. You almost want to believe it, but the noise around youth is shouting, the coughing, the clash of fists over a single gem drowns out any comfort. You understand now why some call them cursed stones. They glitter like stars. But every sparkle blinds you to the suffering beneath. At the edge of the pit, traders wait with trucks. The diamonds move quickly from hand to hand, passing through soldiers' pockets, through corrupt officials, through border posts greased with bribes. You walk beside one of the trucks as it rattles along a dirt road, the cargo hidden under sacks of cassava. The driver laughs nervously, saying that the same diamonds will soon be polished in Antwerp, set in velvet boxes, sold under bright lights to couples who will never hear the screams buried inside the stones. You picture that transformation, and it chills you. A miner's bloodied hands exchanged for a ring that sparkles in a glass case. The truth erased by polish. In the city, jewelers sit behind glass counters, magnifying lenses perched on their noses, examining the very stones you watched being dug. Their voices are smooth, their hands steady, their eyes blind to the lives that carried the diamonds here. You hear them praise the cut, the clarity, the brilliance, as if those were the only measures of worth. You want to shout that the true measure is the cost in broken backs and stolen childhoods, but your voice is swallowed by the hum of commerce. Historians still debate whether consumer boycotts ever shifted this system. But looking at the glitter in those counters, greed has always been louder than conscience. Night falls and the pit's empty. But the silence is not peace, it is exhaustion. Families sit in huts lit by single candles, counting what little food they can buy with the day's work. A woman stirs thin porridge, her hands trembling as she drops in a few grains of rice, while her child clutches a stone she secretly kept, believing it might someday change their fate. You feel the weight of that belief, heavy and fragile. Because in the Congo's diamond wars, survival is never guaranteed, and hope itself becomes as sharp and brittle as the stones hidden in the dirt. You lie awake listening to the wind through the trees, carrying faint voices of prayers, curses, and bargains. The diamonds glitter in the dark, silent witnesses to lives they will never redeem. And you understand that this is the cruelest part of their secret. They promise beauty, but they deliver only hunger, loss, and endless wars that carve scars into the earth and into everyone who walks upon it. You enter a market where the air feels thick with dust and secrets, and the first thing you notice is the sound, not the cheerful clamor of trade, but a hushed rhythm of murmurs, as if every word carries danger. Wooden stalls sag under the weight of fruit, cloth, and salt, yet it is the hidden exchanges that dominate here. Beneath sacks of grain, in the folds of robes, between handshakes too long to be casual, diamonds pass like whispers, fueling the invisible engine of the Congo's diamond wars. You wander between stalls and catch glimpses of rough stones changing hands. One moment buying a week's worth of bread, the next buying a pistol. You realize quickly that these diamonds are not just currency, they are the language of survival. Spoken fluently by everyone who cannot afford silence at one corner. A man displays knives and radios, but it is the small pouch he keeps hidden that draws attention. You see him pull out a single diamond, and instantly two buyers lean forward, offering livestock, salt, and a thick roll of cash. Oddly, another buyer leans in with only a single bottle of palm wine, whispering that the stone is cursed and should never be kept. The seller laughs nervously, but his hand shakes as he tucks it away, and you wonder how many stones were abandoned, buried, or hidden out of fear that they carried more than earthly value. Historians still debate whether these tales of cursed diamonds were propaganda, spread by rival traders, or genuine beliefs born from centuries of suffering. But the tension in the man's eyes makes you think fear is as valuable a currency as the gems themselves. Nearby, a group of women huddle with baskets of cassava. They barter quietly, one slipping a small diamond under a pile of roots, exchanging it for medicine she cannot otherwise afford. You see her clutch the vial to her chest as if it were life itself, and for her it is. Another woman presses a stone into a soldier's palm, her voice trembling as she begs him to release her brother from custody. He pockets it and waves her away without promise, and the hopelessness in her eyes tells you she knows diamonds cannot always buy what matters most. The market does, with stories as much as with trade. A young boy whispers to you that last week a diamond bought silence when a smuggler killed a rival in broad daylight. Another claims a single stone paid for a chief's entire election campaign. You wonder how much of it is true, but the beauty of the whispers is that they do not need proof, they thrive on possibility, shaping the fear that keeps everyone complicit. The Congo's diamond wars are not fought only in jungles or mines, they are sustained here. In markets where survival is bought and sold under the cover of normal trade, an odd detail lingers in your mind. One merchant carves small notches into each diamond he sells, a secret mark that lets him track where they end up. He insists it is to prove his stones are cursed, that no buyer can escape their fate. You imagine those tiny scratches traveling across oceans, ending in velvet boxes in cities that will never know the trembling hands that once held them. Historians still debate whether traders like him truly existed, or whether these stories are inventions, passed down to explain misfortunes, but the idea that the stones themselves keep count is chilling enough to stay with you as the sun sets. The market glows orange, and you realize the day's trade is not ending. It is only shifting into the night. Candles flicker in back rooms where larger deals are struck, where whole sacks of stones change hands for briefcases of weapons, where men with polished shoes speak in foreign tongues and disappear before dawn. You know, this is the hidden heart of the Diamond Wars, not the violence of the pits, but the silence of the markets where stones move quietly, invisibly, until they have rewritten entire nations. You step away, the murmurs fading behind you, but the weight of what you witnessed presses heavy on your chest. Diamonds in Congo are not jewels, they are shadows. They buy bread, they buy weapons, they buy silence, and yet they never bring peace. And as you walk into the night, you cannot shake the sense that the stones in this market carry more than value. They carry stories, and each one whispers of lives changed, broken, or erased. The dawn is pale when you open your eyes, and the first thing you notice is the silence. No market shouts, no mining hammers, no caravan songs only, the low hum of a country that has endured too much. You walk through a village where roofs sag with age, where walls are patched with scraps of tin, where children chase one another barefoot in the dust, laughing despite the hunger carved into their ribs. This is the modern Congo, still glittering with buried secrets, still scarred by greed, still haunted by the long shadow of the Diamond Wars. And here, survival has become both an art and a quiet rebellion. You pause at a roadside stall where a man sells carved wooden masks. At first glance, it looks like ordinary craftwork, but when he leans closer, he whispers that he hides diamonds inside the hollow eyes, sending them safely across borders disguised as souvenirs. Odd details like this tell you how creativity itself has become a weapon in the Congo's Diamond Wars. Historians still debate whether these small acts of smuggling weakened the grip of warlords, or only deepened corruption. But you can see the pride in his eyes, the refusal to surrender his livelihood to those who would crush it. Walking farther, you find a woman boiling cassava leaves over a clay stove. She tells you that sometimes she trades food for small fragments of diamonds, but most of the time, she prefers seeds. You can't eat stones, she says simply, her words cutting sharper than any blade. You realize in that moment that survival here is not only about resistance, it is about choosing what truly sustains life. Even when glittering temptation is all around in the capital city, the scene changes. Skyscrapers rise beside crumbling streets, and luxury cars glide past children selling peanuts by the roadside. You wander into a jewelry shop where polished stones sparkle beneath glass, the very diamonds that began as whispers in the dirt. The salesman speaks smoothly about clarity and brilliance, never mentioning the rivers of sweat and tears that carried the stones here. You watch a wealthy couple admire a necklace, their eyes glowing, and you wonder if they feel even a shadow of the weight you have carried through this journey. Historians still debate whether today's conflict-free labels truly guarantee clean stones, or whether they are just another mask for the same old hunger. But the contradiction is stark enough to leave you unsettled. Outside, you meet a group of students gathered under a jacaranda tree, their notebooks filled with dreams. One young man speaks passionately about a future where Congo's resources are no longer curses, but blessings, where diamonds build schools instead of fueling wars. Another girl sketches a design for solar lamps she hopes to distribute in rural villages. Their voices rise above the noise of traffic, hopeful yet defiant. And for the first time, you sense a different kind of power stirring. Odd rumors still ripple across the land. Some say cursed diamonds sink themselves back into the earth when wars end, refusing to be sold again. Others claim that every stone carries the name of the miner who unearthed it, visible yet eternal, waiting for justice to be spoken. Whether myth or memory, These stories cling to the Congo like morning mist, a reminder that history is never entirely buried. As you leave, you carry the image of ordinary people inventing quiet ways to endure. A woman teaching her daughter to weave baskets instead of mining. A man repairing bicycles in exchange for rice. A child chasing fireflies in the twilight, his laughter a small act of defiance against a world that tried to steal it. These fragments of resilience are the true secret of Congo's diamond wars, not just the suffering they caused, but the strength of those who refuse to be erased, and so you walk away. The ground beneath you still heavy with glittering stones, but your heart lighter for having seen the courage that persists here. You realize the price of survival is steep, but it is paid daily by people who choose life over diamonds, hope over despair, and stories over silence. The fire of the story dims, and you let your shoulders loosen as if a long journey has finally come to rest. The roar of guns and the clink of diamonds begin to fade, replaced by something softer, something that carries no sharp edges. You picture the Congo not in turmoil but in twilight, the rivers calm and silver beneath the moon, the jungle breathing slowly as if it too longs for peace. In this gentler light, the diamonds lose their weight. They are just stones again, lying quietly in the earth where they cannot hurt anyone. You settle into that vision, allowing it to drift like mist over your thoughts, each detail dissolving until nothing remains but stillness. The voices of traders, soldiers, and miners grow distant, like echoes carried away on the wind, leaving behind only the sound of your own calm breath. And as you rest, you understand that history's darkest secrets cannot follow you here. Tonight, the story closes like a door behind you, and you are safe, warm, and unburdened. Sleep comes easily now, wrapping you in its gentle arms, reminding you that tomorrow is another day to carry only what is light. End of script. Wishing you much joy and health.